The Sacred and the Scandal, Jesus and the Temple in Jerusalem. The Temple in Jerusalem stood as the spiritual and physical heart of Jewish life during the time of Jesus. More than just a building, it was the dwelling place of God, the center of worship, sacrifice, and national identity. Jesus of Nazareth, a devout Jew, held a profound connection to this sacred institution, yet his interactions with it were often marked by both reverence and radical challenge. This documentary explores the multifaceted relationship between Jesus and the Jerusalem Temple, delving into its historical significance, his teachings within its courts, and the pivotal event of its cleansing, which ultimately underscored his prophetic mission. The Second Temple, a monument of faith and power. At the time of Jesus, the Temple in Jerusalem was a magnificent structure, largely rebuilt and expanded by King Herod the Great. This Second Temple, as it was known, was a sprawling complex that served as the focal point for Jewish religious life. Pilgrims from across the Roman Empire would journey to Jerusalem, especially during major festivals like Passover, to offer sacrifices and worship God. The temple complex was meticulously organized, featuring a series of progressively holier courtyards. The outermost, the Court of the Gentiles, was the largest and most accessible, intended for non-Jews to come and pray. Inside were the Court of Women, the Court of Israel, and finally the Court of Priests, where the sacrificial rituals were performed. This architectural design reflected the hierarchical nature of worship and purity within Judaism. Economically, the temple was a bustling hub. It facilitated the exchange of foreign currency into acceptable temple coinage and the sale of animals for sacrifice. These services, while convenient for pilgrims, also generated significant revenue for the temple authorities. Jesus' engagement with the temple. Jesus' life was deeply intertwined with the temple. As a child, he was presented there, and at the age of 12, he famously engaged with the teachers within its courts. Throughout his ministry, Jesus frequently visited Jerusalem and taught within the temple precincts, often drawing large crowds and engaging in debates with religious leaders. His teachings often touched upon the true meaning of worship and the law, challenging the externalism that he perceived among some religious authorities. He emphasized the importance of internal righteousness over mere outward observance, a theme that would often bring him into conflict with the temple establishment. The cleansing of the temple, a prophetic act. Perhaps the most dramatic and controversial event in Jesus' relationship with the temple was its cleansing. Recorded in all four Gospels, this event saw Jesus overturning the tables of the money changers and driving out those who sold animals for sacrifice from the temple courts. Jesus' actions were not a random outburst but a deliberate prophetic act, laden with symbolic meaning. He quoted from Isaiah 56 verse 7, declaring, "My house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations," and from Jeremiah 7 verse 11, accusing them of turning it into a den of robbers. His primary grievance was the commercialization of the Court of the Gentiles. By allowing merchants and money changers to operate in this area, the temple authorities were effectively hindering Gentiles from worshiping God in the only space allotted to them. This commercial activity, while providing necessary services, had become a barrier to genuine worship and a source of profit, overshadowing the temple's intended purpose as a place of prayer for all people. The timing of the cleansing is debated among scholars. Matthew, Mark, and Luke place it at the end of Jesus' ministry, shortly before his crucifixion, suggesting it was a catalyst for his arrest. John, however, places it at the beginning of his ministry. Regardless of the precise chronology, the act served as a powerful statement against the corruption and misdirection of the temple's sacred purpose. It symbolized Jesus' zeal for God's house and foreshadowed the coming judgment upon the temple itself, which he predicted would be destroyed within a generation. The temple beyond the stones. Beyond the physical structure, Jesus also spoke of a deeper spiritual temple. When challenged by the Jews after the cleansing, he declared, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The Gospel of John clarifies that he was speaking of the temple of his body, foreshadowing his death and resurrection. This statement redefined the concept of the temple, shifting the focus from a physical building to his own person as the ultimate dwelling place of God and the means of reconciliation between God and humanity. Conclusion. Jesus' relationship with the temple in Jerusalem was complex and deeply significant. He revered it as his Father's house, yet he challenged its practices when they deviated from its divine purpose. His cleansing of the temple was a bold prophetic act, highlighting his concern for genuine worship, justice, and the inclusion of all nations. Ultimately, Jesus' teachings and actions concerning the temple pointed to a new understanding of God's presence and a new covenant, where access to God would no longer be confined to a physical structure, but would be made possible through him. The temple, once the center of Jewish life, became a symbol of the old order giving way to the new, fulfilled in Christ.